Timmy sighed, staring out the window. Rain lashed against the glass and the wind howled like a hungry wolf. It was a proper stormy night, the kind that made the old house creak and groan. He was home alone, his parents out for the evening, and boredom was quickly turning into a prickly sword of fear. He'd already played all his video games, read his favorite comic books twice, and even tried to build a fort in the living room, but nothing seemed to chase away the feeling of unease. Every shadow seemed to dance, every gust of wind sounded like someone whispering his name. The flickering light from the hallway cast long, distorted shapes on the walls, making his imagination run wild. He wished his dog, Buster, was here. Buster never got scared. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house. Timmy jumped, his heart leaping into his throat. It was a knock, but not a friendly one. It sounded heavy, insistent, almost angry. He glanced at the clock on the microwave, 11:58 p.m. Who would be knocking at this hour in the storm? Another knock, even louder this time, rattled the front door. The wind seemed to howl in response, as if daring him to open it. He crept towards the door, his bare feet silent on the wooden floor. Each creak of the house seemed amplified, making him even more nervous. He peered through the peephole, but the stormy darkness obscured everything. Taking a deep breath, Timmy unlocked the door and slowly pulled it open. Standing on the porch was a figure shrouded in darkness. A long, dark cloak billowed in the wind and a deep hood obscured their face. Only a sliver of pale skin was visible beneath the hood's shadow. The stranger didn't speak, didn't move. They simply stood there, a silent, imposing presence against the raging storm. Timmy's unease intensified. He couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, old or young. The stranger's stillness was more frightening than any shout could have been. A shiver ran down Timmy's spine, and he felt a primal urge to slam the door shut. Without a word, the stranger extended a hand, offering Timmy a small, square box. It was plain brown cardboard, sealed with simple tape. There were no markings, no labels, no return address, nothing to indicate where it came from or what it contained. The box looked ordinary, almost disappointingly so, yet the circumstances surrounding its delivery made it anything but. Timmy hesitated, unsure whether to take it. Rain dripped from the stranger's cloak onto the porch and the wind howled louder, urging him to make a decision. The stranger's hand remained outstretched, the box a silent offering in the stormy night. Timmy's heart pounded in his chest. Timmy reached out, his fingers brushing against the stranger's cold hand as he took the box. The moment he had it, the stranger turned and vanished into the storm as silently and abruptly as they had appeared. One moment they were there, a dark figure against the raging weather, and the next, they were gone, swallowed by the night. Timmy stood alone on the porch, the box clutched tightly in his hands. The wind howled around him, and the rain soaked through his pajamas. He stared into the darkness, but the stranger was nowhere to be seen. A mixture of fear and intense curiosity washed over him. What was in the box? And why had the stranger given it to him? Back inside, Timmy stood in the middle of the living room, the box heavy in his hands. He stared at it, a battle raging inside him. Curiosity screamed at him to tear it open, to discover its secrets. But fear whispered warnings of unknown dangers, of things better left undisturbed. He held the box up to the dim light, tilting it slightly. Should he peek? Just a little? He carefully loosened a corner of the tape and lifted the flap just enough to peek inside. All he saw was darkness. A deep, impenetrable blackness that seemed to absorb the light. It was strangely unsettling, making him quickly reseal the box. The mystery only deepened. What was hiding in that darkness? Taking a deep breath, Timmy ripped open the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of crumpled newspaper, was an object unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a smooth, dark stone shaped like a teardrop. Strange symbols were etched into its surface, glowing faintly with an inner light. It felt cool to the touch, almost like ice, yet it seemed to hum with a hidden energy. The stone was heavier than it looked, and as Timmy held it, he felt a strange tingling sensation in his fingertips. It wasn't painful, but definitely odd. He turned the stone over and over in his hands, trying to decipher the symbols and understand its purpose. It was beautiful and mysterious and more than a little unsettling. As Timmy held the stone, the lights in the living room flickered violently, plunging the room into near darkness for a split second. The storm outside seemed to intensify, the wind howling louder and the rain pounding against the windows with renewed force. He also thought he heard something, a faint whisper that seemed to come from the stone itself, but he couldn't make out any words. He gasped, dropping the stone onto the coffee table. The lights stabilized and the storm settled slightly, but the feeling of unease remained. He stared at the stone, now glowing even brighter, a sense of both wonder and dread filling him. It was definitely more than just a pretty rock. The next morning, Timmy was determined to figure out what the stone was and why it had been given to him. He started by searching online, typing in descriptions of the stone's shape and the strange symbols. He found nothing concrete, only vague references to ancient artifacts and forgotten legends. He even dug out some old books from his attic, hoping to find something that matched the stone's description. Again, he only found hints and whispers of similar objects, spoken of in hushed tones and shrouded in mystery. One book mentioned a tear of the night, a stone said to hold immense power, but the details were scarce and unreliable. The more he searched, the more confused and intrigued he became. As the days passed, Timmy began to notice strange things happening around the house. Small objects would be moved from where he left them, pictures would be slightly crooked, and he kept feeling like he was being watched. He'd find his toys arranged in odd patterns or a book open to a random page. Even more unsettling were his dreams. He dreamt of dark forests, glowing symbols, and a hooded figure beckoning him forward. The dreams were vivid and unsettling, leaving him feeling tired and anxious each morning. He couldn't shake the feeling that the stone was somehow responsible for these strange occurrences, that it was changing something in his world. One afternoon, Mrs. Peterson, the kindly neighbor from across the street, stopped Timmy as he was getting the mail. "Timmy, dear," she said, her brow furrowed with concern, "I hope you don't mind me saying, but I've seen a rather strange person lurking around your house lately. A tall figure in a dark cloak. I saw them just the other day, standing near your garden. Are you expecting anyone?" Timmy's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt cold. Mrs. Peterson's words confirmed his growing fear. The stranger hadn't been a figment of his imagination, a product of the stormy night. The encounter had been real, and the stranger was still watching him. Deciding he needed to protect himself, Timmy resolved to hide the box and the stone. He first tried burying it in the backyard, but the next morning it was back on his bedside table. Then he hid it in the attic, tucked away in an old trunk. Yet, by evening, he found it sitting in the middle of the kitchen table. He tried hiding it in his closet, behind a pile of clothes, and even inside a locked toolbox in the garage. But no matter where he put it, the box mysteriously reappeared, always in a more conspicuous place than before. It was as if the box wanted to be found, or perhaps it was finding him. Overwhelmed and frightened, Timmy finally decided to confide in his best friend, Sarah. At first, Sarah was skeptical, rolling her eyes at the mention of cloaked strangers and glowing stones. "Sounds like something out of a comic book, Timmy," she said, trying to suppress a smile. But as Timmy described the strange events, the flickering lights, the unsettling dreams, and the way the box kept reappearing, Sarah started to take him seriously. Okay, she conceded, "maybe something weird is going on. I don't believe in magic stones, but I believe you. I'll help you figure this out." With Sarah on his side, Timmy felt a glimmer of hope. He wasn't alone anymore. Together, Timmy and Sarah examined the box more closely. Using a magnifying glass, Sarah noticed something faint etched into the bottom. At first, it looked like just scratches, but after carefully cleaning the box, they revealed a hidden inscription: "Where the old stories sleep, the path will keep." The inscription was written in elegant cursive, almost like calligraphy. They had no idea what it meant, but it was definitely a clue. "Where the old stories sleep." Sarah mused. "That's gotta be the old library, right? It's been closed for years, and it's full of old books and legends." Timmy nodded, his heart pounding. Could this be the key to understanding the stone and the stranger? The old library stood on a hill overlooking the town, its windows boarded up and its paint peeling. It looked like something out of a ghost story, silent and forgotten. As Timmy and Sarah approached, a shiver ran down Timmy's spine. The air felt colder here, and the silence was broken only by the rustling of leaves. The front door was locked, but they found a broken window around the back, just big enough to squeeze through. Climbing inside, they were met with the musty smell of old books and decay. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through the boarded windows. This place felt different, more dangerous than anything they'd encountered before. The stakes had definitely been raised. After searching for what felt like hours, Sarah stumbled upon a hidden compartment behind a bookshelf in the old librarian's office. Inside, they found a rolled-up piece of parchment. It was a map, faded and brittle with age, depicting the town and the surrounding woods. But the map wasn't complete. A section of it was torn away, leaving a jagged edge and a missing piece. On the back of the map, scrawled in what looked like dried ink, were the words, "The path is broken, mend it to see." Timmy and Sarah exchanged worried glances. The mystery was growing deeper, and they had a feeling they were getting closer to something important and possibly dangerous. The missing piece, they knew, was the next step. As Timmy and Sarah left the library, clutching the map, Timmy couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He kept catching glimpses of shadowy figures in the periphery, darting behind trees or disappearing into alleyways. They were always just out of sight, but their presence was undeniable. One evening, while walking home from Sarah's house, Timmy saw a dark shape standing across the street, partially hidden by a streetlight. It was too far away to make out any details, but it felt like the cloaked figure from the storm. He quickened his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. The stone, the box, the map, they were attracting attention, and that attention felt dangerous. Determined to confront their watcher, Timmy and Sarah devised a plan. They waited until dusk and then pretended to argue loudly near Timmy's house, hoping to lure the figure out of hiding. As expected, a shadowy form emerged from the trees across the street. Timmy and Sarah sprang their trap, shining a bright flashlight in the figure's face and rushing towards them. But the figure was incredibly fast, darting behind a bush and disappearing into the darkness before they could get close. They searched the area, but the watcher was gone, leaving them with nothing but a lingering sense of frustration and the unsettling feeling that they were outmatched. Desperate for answers, Timmy showed the map and a drawing of the stone's symbols to his grandmother. She gasped, her eyes widening in surprise. "That stone," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's been in our family for generations. It's said to be a tear of the night, a powerful artifact passed down through the ages." She explained that his ancestors had been protectors of the stone, safeguarding it from those who would misuse its power. The symbols, she revealed, were a kind of family crest, a mark of their lineage. Timmy suddenly understood why he had been chosen, why the stone had come to him. It wasn't random, it was his destiny. Despite learning about his family's connection to the stone, Timmy felt overwhelmed and scared. He wasn't sure he was ready to be a guardian, to face the dangers that seemed to be closing in. He decided that the best course of action was to return the stone, to give it back to whoever had sent it. He knew it was a risk, that it might not solve anything, but he couldn't shake the feeling that it was the right thing to do. It took a lot of courage, but he decided he would put the box back on his doorstep where he had found it. Maybe then, the strange events would finally cease. He felt nervous, but he felt that he had to. As midnight approached, Timmy, carrying the box, crept to his front door. The night was still and quiet, a stark contrast to the stormy chaos of the night the stranger had arrived. He placed the box carefully on the doorstep, right where it had been before. A wave of relief washed over him, mixed with a deep sense of apprehension. Had he made the right decision? Would the stranger accept the stone back? Or had he just made things worse? He stood there for a moment, watching the box, his heart pounding in his chest. The silence was deafening. He didn't know what would happen next. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was the stranger, cloaked and hooded as before, appearing as if from thin air. Without a word, the stranger reached down and picked up the box. There was no acknowledgement, no sign of recognition, just a silent retrieval. The stranger turned and disappeared back into the darkness, vanishing as quickly and mysteriously as they had arrived. Timmy stood frozen, watching the spot where the stranger had been. The mission, whatever it was, seemed to be complete. The stranger was gone, and so was the stone. But what did it all mean? True to his hopes, the strange events did cease. The house returned to normal, the unsettling dreams faded, and the feeling of being watched disappeared. Life went back to the way it was before the stranger's knock. But Timmy couldn't forget what had happened. He still had so many unanswered questions. Why had the stone been given to him? What was the stranger's purpose? What was the meaning of the map and the inscription? A lingering sense of wonder filled him, a feeling that the world held secrets beyond his understanding. The door to mystery had been opened, and even though it was now closed, he couldn't help but wonder what lay on the other side. Looking back on everything, Timmy realized he had changed. He was no longer just a bored kid waiting for something exciting to happen. He had faced his fears, solved a mystery, and discovered a hidden part of his family history. He had learned that even ordinary people like him could be part of something extraordinary. He also realized that the world was full of mysteries, secrets hidden just beneath the surface of everyday life. He might not have all the answers, but he had learned to ask the right questions, to be brave, and to trust his instincts. And that, he knew, was a valuable lesson. He was braver and more confident. In his closet, tucked away behind his favorite board games, Timmy kept the plain brown box. It was empty now, of course, but it served as a reminder of the night the stranger knocked, the night his ordinary life had taken an extraordinary turn. He knew, deep down, that this wasn't the end of the story. The world was full of secrets, and he had a feeling that one day the path would call to him again. He would be ready. He would be brave. He would be Timmy, the protector of the tier of the night, ready for whatever adventure awaited him. He smiled, a sense of anticipation filling him. The box was a promise.